So we will be having our Whitetulip program again with Dr. Aydogan today. And I want to talk about a little bit of his background. Dr. Aydogan is an associate professor and director of medical physics at the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine. He joined University of Chicago in 2005 after completing his PhD at the University of Florida in 2001 and his residency program in 2004 at University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. Dr. Aydogan, with his diverse scientific and educational background, is a sought-after speaker of international and national meetings with over 50 invited speaking engagements. After his 5 bypass surgery in 2017, he has been a self-learner of holistic medicine and enjoys sharing his knowledge with the hope of reducing the incidence and severity of chronic diseases. So it's a great work, Dr. Aydogan, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you so much for having me today again. And please just allow me to share my screen. So I am hoping to have some interactive session today with the audience, meaning that I'm hoping that we will have a questions, like and on the panel, hopefully, like if you guys have any question, please go ahead and then put that in the chat and I will try to see them. I will try to answer as well. And then during the this presentation, I will have a couple of questions to you guys as well. So in everyone's life, there are some life-changing moments, and I had that around 5 years ago. So I really thought that I was on the top of my health and career and my game, if you say so. And suddenly I felt like I cannot breathe anymore when I was just walking, and rushed into the emergency room, and I find out that I have 5 bypass. And I find myself, when I woke up, 5 bypass surgeries. And then it didn't stop there. Then, I had an endarterectomy surgery after that, which means that, like one of my carotid artery was clogged. So in my case, I find myself that in a very rare 1 in a million case disease where they couldn't find that is a whether genetic, is a hereditary, or like any life event connected. But I find myself that like my arteries ages like the earlier than many people. So and then I actually knowing that I have a very rare disease, I try to I knew that like the medicine might not be or the pure orthodox medicine, let me put it that way, might not be the answer for me. So I start searching for alternative medicine, in not that sense that like I was looking for changing the orthodox medicine. What I was looking at is, is there anything that we are missing in terms of, like um, while we are doing what we can do in medicine, um, and take that and supplement that with holistic medicine. So one of the things that everybody acknowledged today, our medical schools today do not teach anything about orthodox medicine, right? So everything is the cure of everything is a drug or a surgery, or like something medical intervention. Okay, so and nutrition is not one of those, for instance. And this is the missing point, missing link, I think, in our life today or in our medicine. So that's what I try to study and share my knowledge with other people, try to look at the health from a more holistic perspective and then try to share that. So I would like to start after this brief introduction to my presentation with a saying uh, of a very important person in the history. And then he says that two blessings which many people waste are. So if you try to guess this, like, do you want to put in the chat, maybe, like one or two answers? What are the two blessings which many people waste, you think it is?
Right.
Okay, so those two things are basically health and free time. So those are the two things that, like, they really comes almost, uh, at a very family health and then health and freedom, like these are very all good. I think, like the health is one of them. And then, of course, the family and freedom are also very important. But I think if you look at it, what really drives all the other things are really the health and free time. So for instance, family, right? So if you're healthy and then you use your free time wisely, then, like, you will have a beautiful family life and then beautiful, like career, like, and then all these kind of stuff. So I think, like, the health and free time highlights those two blessings that many people waste. Many people do not really even recognize how much of a blessing it is to have a health and free time, and then, like, how you take those things and then use them, really defines your success in the life, and then also if you believe the hereafter. So I think, like, it's very systematic and then easy if you go around and then only look uh, like who are the healthy people living in the earth today, right? So look at the population, not individual, and then you can find like five that such population that lives healthier and longer than the average, like the people in the world or even in America. So one such population actually lives in our very own Loma Linda in California. And maybe the most healthiest ones are living in Okinawa, Japan, which is a small island, one of the actually like the areas that, like the in the Second World War, it was like bombed with the atomic bomb. um, so the other one in Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya, Costa Rica, and Caria, Greece. So these are all called blue zone. And then there is actually a website. And then I would urge you to go and then look at these blue zone website, and you will see that, like what's they're doing, like why they're, healthier, and then all these kind of stuff. So in these areas, you see double-digit drops in obesity rate, smoking rate, and then also millions of dollars saving in the health cost. So in this area, there's also drastic rise in levels of community engagement and well-being. So the idea then, like it would be, right, it's whether this blue zone characteristics, if you take them and then you apply somewhere else, does that really help? And then it's actually helps. It's, we find out that the blue zone project, what they did is they took the commonalities of these blue zone populations and then tried to apply that in the small controlled counties in the United States. One is in Spencer, Iowa. The other one is in Albert Lea, Minnesota. And then they saw actually like almost 50% reduction in the health cost and then the life expectancies by looking at their health, records of these people, with the health change, with the changes that they made in their life. So it's actually incredible. So it seems like, like it's not our fate to, like be unhealthy or obese, or like the having a increased or the less increased uh, severity of the chronic illnesses, like in this country. So, what are the commonalities then? Like first of all, these people move a lot during the day naturally, like do lots of walking, lots of biking, lots of, backyard work, the garden work. So they all have a very strong purpose in life. They have downshift in their life where they actually preserve at least certain part of their life, their routine. Actually, they shift the gear down, and then they actually do focus on their life, and then they do meditation or enjoy the time with friends, laugh, and then they can just basically get away from the stress of the life. So 80% rule is related to like the how much they eat. Like they generally eat less and generally leave their 80%, 20% of their stomach empty if they eat. And then when they eat, I'm sorry, and then they generally eat plant-based um, of the diet. And they actually generally they says wine at 5, but this is more related in getting more antioxidant in their diet. They have right tribe, meaning that they have a good family circle around them, that they can enjoy life together, and then they do things, healthy things together. And they actually dedicate their time to loved one first rather than their other, like the ambitions in their life. And they have the very strong sense of belonging to a faith generally, or a commitment to a ideal. So these are in the commonalities among these group, and I'm going to be discussing a couple of them, like that comes more, prevalent in these societies, or I'm sorry, in the populations. So before we go, let's look at the Seventh Adventists, like because this is very our own. They live in Los Angeles, in California area. However, they're healthier than the most Californian, and then also the people in America. So, for instance, there are risk of coronary heart diseases was significantly lower in this group, especially who are the group that, in this group, there are, like the majority of them actually live like a vegetarian. Okay. And then there are a group, very small group that are not vegetarian. And then when they compare, even with that group, not compared to all Californians or the Americans, even in that group, the vegetarian actually, to compare to non-vegetarian living in the same area, actually less, they have less CHD, which is the coronary heart disease. All-cause mortality showed a significant positive association with egg intake and negative association with um, the vegetable consumption, or the like the plant-based diet. So what it means that like if you eat more greens, then the group, the individual in this group who are eating more plant-based slanted diet, and then less animal product diet, they tend to have live longer. Compared to other Californians, Seventh-day of Adventists experienced lower rates of death for all cancer, almost 60%, and 75% for women. So this is incredible. It's just like we are trying to find the cure for cancer. And then I think here we find the cancer here. The cure here, the way that I see it. Lung cancer, 25% less. Colorectal cancer, 62% less. Breast cancer, 85% less. All CHD, 60% less for men, and almost non-existence for women. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, no medicine can do this. No preventive medicine that we know today can do this, but they did over there in the in the group of the Seventh-day Adventists. So what are they doing? So their diet mainly consists of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. They consume moderately low-fat dairies, legumes, and nuts. They hardly consume our saturated fat, cholesterol-based food, or the foods that contains high cholesterol, sugar, and salt. They abstain from meat, tobacco, alcohol, and caffeine. Their lifestyle reserves Saturday for a day of rest and worship spent in communion with God and family. Get regular exercise, fresh air, and sunshine. Stay focused on God, family, and community. Okay. So I guess, like this overall shows that commonalities in that slide that I showed earlier. So Okinawans, I think maybe the most healthiest population, and Japanese overall very healthy compared to American and then the whole world. So if you compare Okinawans, like you look at the CHD, coronary heart disease, that like this is per thousand. They had Japanese has 200, almost 200 CHD per 2000, which is almost 20% of the Japanese has CHD. But if you look at the Okinawans, okay, they're only 0.3%, which is 200 per thousand versus 333 per thousand. This is like an incredible reduction, like even though they live in the same community, they generally have very similar genetic composition. So I'm sorry, like the 200 was the United States, 50 is Japanese, and then 33 is the Okinawans. Similarly, male and female, did not change that much. And then if you look at it, colon cancer, 19 versus 10 between the United States population and then Okinawans, which is doubled in America, and then almost 1.5 times in Japanese population. And prostate cancer, it's amazing. I mean, it's like 7 times more in the United States, and then in the Okinawans, like 7 times less, and then doubled in the whole Japanese the population. So based on this, on average, Okinawans has almost 50% less cancer rates compared to Japanese population, and almost 3 to 5 or 6 in some cases in different cancers, more or less the fold less compared to the American population. So this shows that like the Okinawans actually live very healthy, even compared to healthy Japanese population. So the main question then becomes, like what are they doing? One of them is, like what are their diet? When I ask this, generally people answer, oh, they live in, like a Japanese island. Of course, they eat lots of fish. That's why, right? So if you look at their diet, it's almost 70% sweet potatoes. They hardly eat any animal product, including fish. They eat very, very little fish. They eat, like the lots of, like the vegetables and the whole grain based products. And maybe less than 5% of their diet are animal based, including even fish. So this, it's very interesting. So it shows that actually diet has a very strong correlation and association with healthy living. And of course, like many people said, you know what, that could be genetics. It's like, and there are actually lots of studies has been done, and then has demonstrated that it has nothing to do with genetics. And then how they did that, they look at the younger generation after the World War II. Of course, we had the American base in Okinawa, and like we brought like fast food and American diet. And then what happened? Their younger generation are less healthier, and then very similar to Americans, right? And then that shows that diet westernization, and then also their lifestyle changes caused actually a similar shift in their health perspective and then prognosis, unfortunately. Okay, so let's come back then to America, where we are. So it is actually an alarming rate that chronic diseases is increasing in America. 6 in 10 adults in the US have chronic diseases. 4 in 10 adults have 2 or more chronic diseases, which reduces the life expectancies, and then also more than $4 trillion in annual health costs right now today. Um, and then every day, actually, we are coming up with the new chronic disease, and then one of them is sitting disease. And sitting disease, unfortunately, becoming the cause of most of the chronic diseases in America. Most of the jobs that we are creating today increasingly becoming done, like by sitting. Many of us, like spend lots of times in front of our computers, in front of our phones, and then like even after the job, right? So we are sitting a lot, not only at the job but at our daily life as well. As such, like on average, American sits around 8 hours a day, and then that's increasing every day. So, and then what we are finding is actually in an alarming rate, the people who averages around 6 to 8 hours sitting in a day, they die faster. And then what, at least, on average is 50%. But what is alarming is this is actually worse for women. That actually becoming, like a interesting phenomenon right now that like people are investigating. um, the woman actually has double, like or their likelihood, or they're 50% higher or double their chances of dying from the chronic diseases if they're sitting more than 6 to 8 hours a day compared to men. So they're at double risk compared to men. And then nobody knows why. Maybe it's because of their metabolism, like fat, the ability of storing the fat, like when they get older, or they're less moving less, like they compare to men. I'm not, like people are looking at all these things, right? But however, unfortunately, women are, like they at more risk compared to men by sitting longer on their daily life. Okay, so the culprits of chronic diseases are insulin resistance, inflammation, oxidative stress, and emotional stress. So I am not going to go into details of all these things, and then like um, uh, but I think many of you guys heard of these things and then know these are causes. I think like the most important thing, it's important to know what are those things and what they cause these. But I think more important, and then is the uh, in respect of our time, we can just look at it how to prevent these things. I think like we can use our time in a much efficient way. So there are main four like the ways of to prevent the chronic diseases. One is changing your diet based on the studies that like has been done and then has been demonstrated that is effective. Okay, second is managing stress well. The third is reduce environmental pollution and poison. and then the 4, training your body to heal itself. So we are going to be looking at it each very briefly. You can either choose the food that most powerful of type of medicine, or like the slowest form of poison, which actually like they generally start showing its effect after the age of 40, 50. It was 60s in the older days, but it becoming actually younger and younger. So I'll give you an alarming actually a study. They did autopsy on the people who died, like based on their ages. And then they compare those autopsy results, like the to older, like the studies. And that autopsy study had individual from as early as from 5 years old to all the way to 7 years old, I think. And in the older, like studies, it showed that, like people generally start having higher the calcifications in their arteries after the age of 40 or 50, like like the 60. So that actually is now in the new studies show that, like that actually decreased to age of 20. So, like it's basically, it's an alarming effect. And then they even seen, like the calcification in the arteries of kids as early as at the age of 10, even 9 years old. So, like the way that we are eating actually start to poison us earlier. And then just basically the effect is so fast right now that, you start, like seeing the effects at the age of 30s, even 40s, compared to earlier generation, baby boom generation in this country, like start to getting aging effects, like after 60s, even 70s in many cases on average. So let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. It has been actually a long standing, like the motto of many health conscious people in the history. So I think, like we can be wise to choose our medicine. I mean the in our food, not only in a to feed us, but also to be our medicine to heal us. So most of my studies has demonstrated that actually the healthiest diet are more plant-based whole food diet. And in the whole food plant-based diet, you can get everything that you actually your body needs. And in this diet, as you can see, there is hardly any meat or any animal byproduct, because they're more inflammatory compared to others, and then they cause like long-term inflammation and chronic effects. And like it is difficult to switch to diet, something like that. But I think, like however you could reduce any kind of animal and then animal products in your diet. Start with 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then, like this, start increasing that. So don't increase. I think my message to you guys, the way that you do it, not only reduce the amount of the animal product that you eat in your diet, but also reduce the days that you eat animal product, because they cause inflammation, and then they go 6 to 8 hours. As such, like it affects your body. So, like the days that you don't eat any animal product, it gives your body to deal with those inflammations, like more effectively. And then, as I said, start with 1 day, 2 days, and then increase that, hopefully, like maybe at least more than the half of the week not eating animal products. And then take it from there. Hopefully 1 day you can just switch it, like to less animal product in your life. And I'm thinking my research show that, like it is healthier. And then I'm going to show you some studies. So there are studies that done at the University of Southern California. I'm sorry, UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, one of the most reputable medical school. Dean Ornish started at actually clinical, not started, completed this clinical trial into 1990s, and then has shown that you can reverse prostate cancer only by diet, right? What they did is they showed this with imaging. As you can see, like this patient had a cancer in his prostate, but like when they changed diet to do mainly plant-based diet, you can see that, like the cancer start reducing. Actually, this is a better effect than most of the hormones or any therapy that we are applying to these patients today. So second thing that I'm going to show you is a reversal of the heart diseases. This image shows that basically there's less blood flow in the arteries. Like the red is higher blood flow, and then as you go to the yellow is less. So when you change the diet, as you can see, you can start seeing the more blood flow, meaning that there is less calcification, and then which is evident in here. This is a real patient. He's a 40 years, actually, he himself is a cardiologist. He himself finds him, like in a lower ascending arteries, actually, like the clogged, and then this generally known as widower, like the basically it comes suddenly, and then it generally takes you, kills you more or less. Basically, if you're lucky, you within the 20 to 30% of these people having narrowing in their LAD will survive. And then he was one of them. And then he was himself as the Cleveland Clinic surgeon, and then a health wellness center run by Caldwell Esselstyn, doing this plant-based reversal, heart diseases reversal program. He enlisted himself to that program. After a year or two, I think, like it's 32 months. So after 3 years, you can see that, like his arteries, like start coming back. So like the after 3 years or so, you can see that this is like the more or less like the artery start coming back to the original shape, and then the clogging is becoming less and less. So this is not very usual. I gotta be honest. Like the main idea here is to stop the progression and then slowly reversal. And then reversal is very difficult, okay? And then it's not very common, but like it's possible. But this is not possible with any other medicine that we know today. So the second one is manage the stress better. So before we go in, I think, like we are going to make a survey. So the first question is, do you believe stress is harmful for your health? And then second question, how much stress did you experience within the last year? And then third is, do you help someone that, or did you help someone that made you feel good or in a meaningful way that changed their life within the last year? So I'm just wanted to see, like at least give you a chance to answer that in your mind. Okay. So, okay. So we'll go to then the study. So this study has been done, I think, in one of the major universities, I believe in Harvard, but I'll check and then come back. Let me see if it's my note. Sorry. Oops. Okay. Yeah, I did not put the source here, reference here, but if anybody is interested, I can give you the reference for this later. But like I think it has been done in Harvard. So what they did is, like the general knowledge is the stress is your enemy, right? And then generally the way that, since we know that it's the enemy, then we try to manage it better. Okay. So that has changed actually our perspective on stress. what changed our perspective on stress is a study in society done by the European Society of Cardiology in 2013. They actually surveyed and then followed 80,000 people over 8 years. And every year they asked them, okay, they asked them, how much did you experience stress within the last year? And then second question was every year again, do you believe stress is harmful for your health? And then what they did is very simple. They went to the public death record and then look at who died, and then they look at their answers within the last 8 years, right? So, and then it was actually perfectly fine that with our knowledge that, like more people who believe, the more people who experienced a lot of stress in their life within the last year died that year, okay? So that rate was 43% high. So people who experienced a major stress in their life within the previous year had a 43% higher chance of dying that year. So that's one thing. Then they ask, they look at the second question. Do you believe stress is harmful? What they find is very astonishing, okay? People who experience lots of stress but did not believe the stress is harmful has a much less chance or risk of dying compared to people who answered the first question, yes, lots of stress, yes, they believe stress is harmful, and then second question, a lot of stress, right? So if those things, come together, they become deadlier than the stress itself. So this study's conclusion was this: 20,000 people in 1 year die every year in America. They die not from stress, but because they believe stress is harmful. Okay, so that was the study's, like the general conclusion. And then what they did, okay, at Harvard, they followed up with this different, studies showing that actual stress causing or believing stress is, is harmful, causing actually lots of, like the damages in your body that causes, or in your brain that follows your body, that actually really harmful for your body. So the idea is that stress is your enemy is actually, like not true. Like if you see the stress is your friend, then everything is changes. So stress is a blessing. Stress is giving, or like in our part of our body to protect us, not actually kill us. Okay, so if you do not get in stress when it's, like at a high risk situation, high stake situations, then you will not be able to protect yourself, for your body, for your family. Like you cannot do that. When you feel stress, those, like different activities happen in your body, helps you protect yourself, and then also protect, like the future incidences of those things. Okay, so they actually did lots of studies. There's a very powerful TED talk. I'll give those references hopefully to the organizer, and then you can get it from them. And that kind of changed my life as well, I gotta be honest. Okay, the second thing that study did, and then the follow-up studies did, they actually look at those people who meaningfully helped someone within the last year. Actually, they had, even though they had a stressful life, even though they said stress is harmful, if they actually help someone within the previous year, they had a less chance of dying because of the, I don't know, the accomplishment on charities, like they being helpful to other people, help people actually, survive stressful times in their life. So I think, like the take-home message is start believing and then managing stress better. And then stress is your enemy. It's given to you for a purpose, and then use it for that purpose. Okay. The third one is reduce environmental pollution and poison around you. So the nature depends on recycling. And for nature to be able to recycle, those channels that they can breathe, or the nature can breathe, should be open. Okay. So by us polluting the environment, we are closing those channels that, like the nature can breathe and recycle itself. As such, we are actually going towards a catastrophic failure of the nature recycling itself. And then that's going to be very dangerous for human life in this earth. So similar thing happens in our body. Okay, so 300 billion new cells on average every day are produced. What happens to the old one? They're recycled, right? They're gone. So it's, every 6 months or so, you are a new person. So your body is recycling. Okay, so the same thing. Okay, the same thing happens for you. So if you close the channels or pathways, like that, your body can recycle itself in a healthy manner, then all these chronic diseases and then aging will take over. So we have to be very careful. So how we are going to be careful, right? So this image shows that how we are actually in a physical way choking the nature, right? The even the animals cannot breathe anymore, and then they die. Not only these physical constraints that we put on them, or the pollution that we put on them, also all these chemical pollutions that, like they poison them, not only them but us, because, like we at the end not only, like eating the what comes from the earth, but, or, like they're also from the animals, right? So in our recycling, we are damaging the environment and then damaging our recycling process, not only the nature, but also our recycling process. And then the other thing is, of course, the fast food genocide. So this is the natural genocide that we are posing to the world or nature. And then also we are doing a similar fast food genocide into our body, into our children's. Okay, ultra processed food, unfortunately, becoming the major blockage or hurdle in our natural recycling process. So the next item, train your body to heal itself. It's more or less answers, like the how we are going to be solving this problem of blocking the natural pathway of recycling in our body. In the environment, we know how to do that, right? We have to stop this nonsense. In our body, like we can train our body to heal itself and then reactivate, or gain the health in our natural recycling process. So I'm going to be introducing a terminology. Maybe many of you guys already know this. Autophagy. Autophagy means self-eating cells. Okay, so it's a normal physiological process of the body of living organisms. It maintains homeostasis, which is the equilibrium or normal functioning by protein degradation and turnover of the destroyed cells, organelles for new cell formation. So this is the cycle or pathways of natural recycling in our body. Okay, it is very critical for our body to survive and stay healthy. Okay, so what's about it? Until 2016, we did not know, okay, that autophagy, okay, can be activated in our body. And then it plays a very important role of in the recycling, or what plays the important role in our recycling of our cells in our body. Okay. And basically, if this autophagy is not happening, then this process, like the could cause cancer, infectious diseases, immunological diseases, neurodegeneration like Alzheimer, Parkinson's diseases in our body, and then plays a big important role in our aging, right? So this system was studied for years in very simple organisms. And then it was not until 2016 that Oshimi Yoshinori got the Nobel Prize, showing that that same mechanism is effective in our body, in the human organisms as well. So that was the Nobel Prize. Okay. So what is that? So in our body, we have, in our cells, we have different organelles. And one of them is lysosome. Lysosome is also known recycler or janitor of the cell, which cleans the cell, basically. Okay. So what about it? Okay, this recycler of the cell, what it does is take defective damaged cell parts and any intracellular pathogens, misfolded proteins that, like in the next recycle creates the unhealthy recycled cells, okay? And any kind of myeloid deposits that, like which is a waste in your body, okay? And then take them and recycle them. Okay, that's good. So when does it do that? Right? That's the Nobel Prize coming up right now. Okay. When does it do that? Does it do it regularly? Guess what? Not really. Right? When you start giving lots of food to your body, okay, it does not need to, even though there's lots of, like the waste in the cells and organelles, the body does not feel that it needs food, right? Then it does not activate as much. It does still, right? But it does not activate as much. That cleans your body or heals your body. So what it activates is fasting. It's amazing. It's basically when you starve your body signals the lysosome, say that go find food for me. Because like what the lysosome does, not only cleans them, turns them into free fatty acid and amino acids, and then that use as a fuel in the cell remodeling. And then also it turns not only fueling this mechanism, but also fueling our body to survive. Okay. So you have to starve your body to activate this mechanism to a level where, like your body heals itself. Okay. So after that, or more than 20 years, like people has studied, like the best of preventive medicine, fasting becoming the best forms of preventive medicine. And then they link that to many diseases that we are fighting today. Okay. From cancer to aging, like the reducing the emotional stress, like the reducing the Alzheimer, Parkinson's, whatever you can think of, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples. This is a study done at the UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. And what they actually find out that there is a differential stress resistance in mice who are fasting. Okay, so the idea is you give a chemotherapy to mice that bearing cancer cells or tumor, and like you have two group of mice. You fast one of them, and then the other one has regular diet. You give them a chemotherapy, and then look at the outcome. Okay, so when you do that, you start seeing this differential stress resistance. And then what is that? Okay, so what they have seen is, okay, the healthy cells in the body are protected in the fasting mice. Okay, the protective genes on those mice that are fasting are activated, and then as such protected the heart, liver, muscle, brain. Okay, as you can see, the activation by red, after fasting. So this actually resulted in less toxicity on the body of the mice, and then they survived the chemotherapy, although that chemotherapy, it was so high that could kill the mice, and then it did on the other group. Not only these mice survived, but also their cancer improved, meaning that they start shrinking, right? So then the next effect that they observed is differential stress effect, which is while the protective genes on the healthy tissue are activated, the protective genes in the tumors deactivated, so that the tumor can be killed by the chemotherapy more effectively. So now actually people, the scientists are looking into how we can incorporate fasting into cancer treatments. Okay, so let's go back to how you can fast. One of the famous fasting method is intermittent fasting, and then generally are used by the bodybuilders. And that is basically you not eat anything after 8 p.m. until the noon the next day, and then also incorporate some moderate exercise during that time. And after the noon to 8 p.m. you eat moderately, and hopefully the more healthier food. This is one of the things that I do for the last 5 years in my life. So I generally don't eat after 8. Sometimes generally try to do before 7, but generally 8 o'clock. So I think it's working great. So some of the criticism of this, basically, if you don't eat, regularly, you cannot be athlete, you cannot do bodybuilding, and then all these kind of stuff. So this person, eats only one day a meal, and then that meal is actually within 1 hour period between 6 and 7 p.m. every evening. And then he does not eat anything until the next day, but drinks lots of the herbal teas and then herbal based drinks during the daytime. And then he does 1 hour meditation every day, and then he's a bodybuilder. Maybe I think he holds the world record of deadlifting, as far as I know. And then the criticism is that or your metabolism might be different, this and that. And then he trained other people to do the similar things, and then it seems like our body adapts the changes that we think that it's very difficult very easily, especially if it's in healthy changes. And although some of the orthodox medicine and then nutrition's knowledge indicate differently today. So the other fasting method is 5-2 diet. This is famous among many English famous people, because it came from an English gentleman, and he actually indicated that if you fast 2 days only a week, then your body actually start healing itself, and also you lose weight, and then you can maintain your weight. And then the way that he actually said, these 2 days you fast, and then you also not fast, but you also use reduction of calories, 500 calorie for men, I'm sorry, 500 female, and then 600 for male. And then he suggested that fasting Monday and Thursday, because he actually learned this fasting method from an Islamic, like the resource source that, like the prophet of the Islam, the prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, fasted Monday and Thursday, and then he suggested to fast every Monday and Thursday to his disciples or followers. So the other type of fasting is water fasting. And then in Germany, there are clinics. In Russia, there are clinics that, like healing clinics that, like you fast for, certain days. And then there are many positive reviews of these fasting regimes and then healing effects of those. Do this at your own risk. And then if you're going to do it, be very, very careful, study very well, and then do it under someone who's supervised, who's authorized to do these kind of fasting, because these are very harsh on your body, and you need to train for your body, train for these kind of healing sessions. And fasting is actually suggested in many of the religious sources, including Torah, Bible, and Quran. And, like the many of these sources also draw attention into spiritual benefits of fasting, not only the physical benefit of fasting. And then indeed, many of these sources, religious sources, draw attention to the spiritual benefits of fasting, and then not even mention the physical benefit of the fasting. And then that is, I think, comes with it, like with the spiritual benefit. And then that's why I think spiritual benefit has been seen higher than the religious, the physical benefit. And if you attain the spiritual benefit, that physical benefit comes with it. That's why most likely, like when I talk to different scholars in the religions, that's what they were like explaining to me. Just to give a note, like the Islam especially has lots of fasting in their practices. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has fasted almost the 6 months of the year. And then if not, then he suggested that like the keeping 1/3 of your like the your stomach full with your food, 1/3 with the water, and then 1/3 all the time empty. So he practiced, and then he suggested eating less and then fasting a lot. And like if you look at this list, like you can see there's a 1 month long fasting in Ramadan, 6 days after Ramadan, day of Ashura, and then 10 day of the Muharram, which is also like they coincide with Yom Kippur. Like, and then it just keeps going, like including the twice a week, Monday and Thursdays. So some of the references, like we are almost actually 5 minutes over our time. So I strongly suggest that watch some of these really nice documentaries. One is No More Heart Attack by Dr. Gupta in CNN. He features Dr. Ornish, and then Dr. Esselstyn that we spoke, and then also Bill Clinton, how he actually used these two doctors' recommendation to reverse or at least take control of heart disease. And then What the Health, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, Fork Over Knives. These are all great resources how to change your diet. And then some of the like the good videos that you can watch on YouTube to better your life, that I definitely had like lots of influences in my own life. The second thing that I'm going to say, although I suggest like plant-based diet, and then hopefully one day plant-based vegan diet, which I try to practice.
So,
I would like to caution you.
Sorry for that. Will you be able to share your documents or your
Yes,
presentation
yes,
with us, that I can share with the
yes, I will.
Okay.
So, I'm almost done, just one more or two more slides.
Mhm.
So I would like to caution you, like today, vegan diet is not healthy. Why? It has lots of processed food. The old good vegan diet, the plant-based diet, was very much holistic, not processed vegan diet that, like they use lots of raw food, or moderately cook, whole food. But today, like for instance, many people try to go from the meat from the to vegan meat. I do not really suggest, I mean, they recommend that, because those vegan meat has tons of, processing, and then tons of, fat, and you do not know long-term effects on your body. So I abstain myself from any kind of processed food. So the good idea is anything in plastic, anything has more than 4 ingredients, anything has preservative in it, like try to stay out of it, and then try to go for the holistic food instead of going bread. Eat lots of grains, whole grains, just boil them and then try to eat it. Those kind of stuff. And then if you're gonna eat it, look for the, like sprouted, less processed, like the food. So I think one of the most honest and also a doctor that I have seen on the internet. In the internet, you can reach lots of information, lots of contradicting information. So I like this site, nutritionfacts.org. Dr. Greger, he quit his day job as a medical doctor. What he does is with a group of volunteers and then also employees now, he actually in a year follow all the studies that has, like the nutrition twist to it, and try to give you guys his honest opinion about, what food is good, what is not good, or what kind of knowledge is true, or like that has bias in it. So I definitely recommend following his like website, and then if you have any question, you can type in the search, for instance, like the what to eat, like the what is the healthiest antioxidant, right? Go type it, and then you'll see that, like it will come, and then he will give you a very scientific explanation of which antioxidant, which food is better antioxidant, and then which one is better for the money. So, like he's putting these things together, like to make it very easy for all of us. Okay, so this will end my presentation,
Thank
and
you very much. It was
so
a
thank
great presentation. But Dr. Aydogan, before we end
yeah,
up our session, there are a couple of questions that been
yeah,
asked by the participants.
yeah,
Do you think we can go over like
yeah.
quickly
Sure. So
in the QA box?
yeah, I'm going to do I don't somehow I just like, okay, Q&A box. Okay, I was in the chat. Okay, okay, let's start from the last one or the first one. Okay, what is your opinion about nightshade vegetables such as tomatoes, eggplants? Do they cause inflammation? I do not believe that, tell you the truth, like the eating any vegetable moderately should be okay. Um, and, I have actually did some search on it. And my honest opinion, there's no scientific base for this yet. I'm not saying that it's wrong, right? So there is a difference saying that it's wrong. There's a saying that scientifically I'm not believing in currently with the knowledge that we have is different, right? So please understand the difference. Um, so there is no scientific base that I can find at least, and then I would be happy if anyone try to send me, like the scientific background or the scientific reference for this, and then I would be happy to investigate. So when I talk about scientific base, I'm coming from a medical training as well. So for me, something to be referenced has needs to be, like it has tested in, like a controlled way, right? So for instance, like the example that I gave you for prostate cancer, what they did is they had patients randomly, um, like they allocate them or put them into two arms. One is diet change, the other one don't have diet change, right? And then at the end of the year, they look at their results. So there's no bias on this thing, right? So there are, like let's say 100 patients on this, 50 of them in the same prostate cancer level, right? They're almost the same prostate cancer. 50 of them passed, 50 of them changed their diet, 50 of them did not change their diet. And then you look at the result, their tumor is decreasing, shrinking compared to the ones that they didn't change diet. So this is a controlled study. We called it clinical trial. So these kind of information are very important. Or any chemical-based studies that they do. For instance, I'll give you one example. What they did is, like uh, the people who eat, like the nitric oxide rich vegetables, and then they did a Doppler ultrasound on their arm to look at the blood flow. So when they eat nitric oxide, like the rich food, what are those in greens, like beets, right? Those kind of stuff. They see that, like their blood flow increase, meaning that, like your arteries actually uh, uh, get more elastic and then allows, like pumping more blood, like so those kind of, when actually they feed these people animal products, especially heavy fat product, like eating a McDonald's, like burger, what they observe is their blood flow actually got less, meaning that, like their the arteries shrunk, right? Or it got more strict, so the blood cannot push through. So like these are kind of like the scientific studies demonstrated that animal products are dangerous for your heart, and then also the nitric oxide rich foods are healthy for your arteries. So these are the scientific basis I'm talking, that if you have any of those things, I would be happy to look at it and then learn myself. As I said, I'm a self-learner. I'm not here to say that I'm an expert on this thing. I'm hoping that learn together, and I only sharing my knowledge. And then these are my until today, my experience and my learning that I'm sharing with you. So I'm open to learn. Okay, what is bad about legumes and nuts? Okay, I don't think anything bad about legumes and nuts. I actually have a whole lecture about legumes, especially legumes are the best form of proteins that you can eat. Okay, and they actually anti-inflammatory. There is actually a let me, okay, if we have time, I do have time. So let me show you a couple of slides, like,
I mean, we are over time. That's why, like, maybe
okay.
we can
So
take
in
like.
any case, like anyone who wants the references I can send about legumes. Nuts are, like the bad for you if you eat a lot, because it has lots of fats, and then fats are not good for you guys, especially saturated fat, even though it comes from natural sources, the fats are fat. Okay, so try to reduce fat in your life, and a handful of nuts, like the generally I would say maybe 10, like the walnut, or 10 pieces of almonds, it's okay in a day. But if you're eating a lot, like that increases the saturated fat in your body, that's not good. So that's the only thing about nuts. But legumes, I cannot say the same thing. The more you eat it, the more better. It's a better protein than the meat, that's for sure. I'll give you a quick reference. The Hispanics in this country eat more than 50% of the all legumes, although they're socioeconomically, like the very low. They have less uh, access to health resources. They're actually healthier growing population in America. So when they look at their actually diet, they said we can, like there's so many bad things in their diet, in their life, but they eat lots of legumes. And then when they look at it, they find out, like, what, there's lots of anti-inflammatory, studies showing that legumes actually healthy for you. So, like that's the only thing that they can attribute right now, that kind of, like the health disparity. So, okay, what is the minimum of amount of exercise needed to stay healthy? So, like I would say that, at least half an hour a day, but, during the day, being active, conscious activity, right? So, like I would say that, like Dr. Greger would say that, like you should be not sitting, actually, like walking when you're even, studying, or, like when standing up, like that's why I have actually, I can show it to you, but I have a bike desk, and then I have actually a adjusting desk that, like I just adjust, during the daytime I try to stand up as much as possible. Dr. Greger, for instance, like I think, he walks almost 8 hours a day when he's working, right? So uh, there is, if you're doing heavy exercises, half an hour, but it's a what I would say, the heavy exercise, like high intensity interval the exercise, but then, like be active all day, be on your feet all day, don't sit, like even standing up is better than, the sitting. Okay.
So actually, we are over time, and
Yeah,
I believe we need to stop here because yeah, it's 12:17 now.
sure.
And you are also tired. You being doing like great presentations. It's been so long
Yes.
for you as well. Yes, we have a lot of questions, but I think our time won't allow us to answer all of them.
Okay, so I'm just gonna just one
Mhm.
clarify one thing,
Okay,
okay?
all right.
So the Vasanti Hedge, like the commented that Mediterranean diet is healthy. Nobody is saying that Mediterranean diet, compared to what?
Mhm.
That's what's important, right? Mediterranean diet is healthy compared to American diet. And then I can give you a reference from Harvard. And then it says, like for heart patients, we recommend Mediterranean diet because it is, like it's easier to maintain for majority of the patient. Okay. However, the best is more plant-based slanted diet, right? So, and the second thing is, yes, brain needs healthy fat, and then I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that, like the amount of the fat that it needs, right? So that's what I said. So nuts is good for you, but the anything, like excess is not good for you. And then that's also, like same for the healthy fats. Okay. So that's all I'm saying. So, what are the healthy fats? Plant-based, like the olive oil, like and then the nut fats are healthy, but anything excess is not good. And then also the source is very important. Olive oil is, like today's old olive oils are healthy. I doubt it, right? The way that they're extracting it, especially fat is very easy to oxidize, and then many of the inflammations are come from the oxidized, like fats. Be careful what you wish for. So that's why it's better to, like, and then again, I have whole like 5 lectures, I mean the slides on healthy fats, and then how, what is important. And then the most important thing is about the fat is to balance the omega-3 and then omega-6. Okay. So omega-3 and then omega-6 ratio in your diet is the most important things they find out in the studies, not the what fat, like this and that, and then omega-3 fat, it's only into certain sources. Unless you increase those things and then reduce the other one, right? You're not going to be having a very balanced ratio of the omega-3 and then 6. Okay. The only way to have that ratio, because omega-3 is only fish oil, and then it's, like the couple of things like in the grains, and the most is flaxseed, right? So you cannot eat those enough in your diet to increase it to a level that you can balance all the other fats. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to reduce the other ones so that you can balance it. Okay, so for a healthy life, that's the thing. And
Yes.
again, Dr. Greger has a whole lecture about it. Please go listen to it. Okay.
Yes, I'll share all the information with our participants, and they can watch the videos as you said
Yeah.
and read more about those issues. So thank you so much, Dr. Aydogan. It was a great presentation, and I learned a lot, and I believe everyone learned a lot today. So
I think, like the key is this. As I said,
Mhm,
I'm a learner of holistic medicine, and then
mhm,
okay, so I'm hoping that I provoke, okay, some questions in the audience today, right? For them to go back and then look into, and then look, hopefully they look for the references and then read things, like, as I said, these are my findings, right? In the internet today, you can find lots of
yes.
contradicting ideas, right?
Mhm.
Lots of contradicting ways of, as the one of our panel, the audience said, like the Mediterranean diet is healthy. Nobody argues that, but like compared to what? So you need to be very careful. Take everything with the grain of salt, right?
Mhm. Thank you. Yeah,
That's the message.
and definitely you did. We will look into all these titles and even the terminology. There were so many things that I haven't heard before, of course, because we are not in medical field. So
Yeah.
you still learn.
So like I today, actually, the last question shows that I did my job, because she said, or he said, I'm confused, right? The whole idea of this lecture was to confuse you. Like that's how it starts learning. So, first you get confused because all the things that right,
Mhm.
somebody comes and says that, like these are not right, right? And
That's
then forces you to, like investigate it,
yeah,
evaluate it, right?
yes, you're
So
right. Okay, so thank you so much again, and maybe we can do more of these sessions in the future with you.
yeah, I mean, if there's an interest and then I can find time, I would be happy to
Mhm.
give another lecture on,
Okay,
whatever,
we will.
like as I said, get into the details of some of these, especially in the diet. So there's lots of questions on the diet. People are confused, what is healthy, what is not
Yes,
healthy,
that's correct.
and those kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe we can
Well,
talk about another in another time about diets. That will be
sure. Yeah,
yeah.
we'll
And
try to do that.
yeah, and one of our participants is saying, "Do bring him back." Okay, so
We have. Thanks so much. I
yeah.
mean, I really appreciate it, the time, and then as I said, like my life, I'm, one of those questions was, like are you doing anything meaningful in other people's life? So
Mhm.
this is my way of trying to do something meaningful. If I can just
Great, you're doing great,
change
right
change
on.
one of the habits that is bad in any of your, like in one person's life, that help him to improve his quality of
Thank
life.
you,
That's my job.
thank you.
So just to give you a background, I'll tell you this much.
Mhm.
As I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm a medical physicist, but I have a medical training, and then I do cancer research. And then I do have actually friends and families that I was able to help changing their diet, which
Mhm.
actually helped them to cure some of their chronic diseases, including diabetes. So
Mhm.
diabetes is a eating disease, is not anything else. So
Mhm.
change your diet to completely vegan diet,
Mhm.
following certain rules, of course, right? You will see that you don't need any more meds. It doesn't matter what level you're in. I mean, unless you damage your pancreas, that it cannot function anymore, then you can, even then, you might be able to stop your medicine, right? And the diabetes is actually one of the deadliest disease that we are dealing, chronic disease that we are dealing today. And then by changing your diet, you can stop it, you can reverse it, because there's no, by the way, like the one thing is, there is no a disease, there is not a disease called diabetes that should be named as eating disease,
Really?
right?
Wow.
Yes, there is no disease called diabetes. It's an eating disease.
That's great to know. And yeah, we're still learning. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So hope to see you again. And thank you for your time. And like I said, I will be sharing your presentation with our participants today. They are here. I'll because I can see their names up here. All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thanks so much for having me.